Hello, friends, and welcome to the Chatty Coffee Date. Now, we're going to do things a little bit different this week because I want to talk about the three main takeaways that honestly, any one of us that considers ourselves to be people that have common sense should be aware of when it comes to the remake of Snow White that just came out. Everybody's talking about it. I want to dive into this today because there are three main points that really stand out to me that are far more important than anyone is giving credit to. So let's dive into it.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937.
This girl's got daddy issues. This girl has major red flags. Feminists don't want equality. They want superiority. Heaven forbid you fall in love. No, we want to be promiscuous. We want to do whatever we want to do, and no man better tell me that something's wrong. I don't think so. It's my way or the highway, right? And then you drop all of this chaos into this like communist drama that's being played out. And you just look at it and go, what on earth is going on?
And she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
So I know we're doing things a little bit different this week with our Chatty Coffee Date. I wanted to sit down and talk about this, though, because everybody's talking about Snow White. You're kind of seeing this stuff everywhere about it. And on one hand, I was kind of like, well, yeah, who cares? You know, like, it's Disney. Disney is an empire. It's a whole different beast. I think many of us probably believed for a long time that it was this great, family-friendly entertainment system, when really it's not. And there's so many issues with Disney. That's not what we're going to break down here today. But the thing that's really standing out to me about this is that, yes, I am a professing Christian. I am raising children. I think there are many important values that every Christian should understand about this movie. But honestly, even taking a religious aspect out of it, and the thing that I'm finding most interesting is I'm hearing this reiterated by even secular commentators on this movie, is that if you just profess to be someone with a grain of common sense, these points should matter to you as well. And why this should matter, whether you are interested in seeing Snow White or not, is, again, this is a reflection of the culture. This is a reflection of the indoctrination of our children. This has an impact, I think, upon all of us that's a lot bigger than just some Disney movie, right? The movie's flopping, everything's falling apart, right? All of this is going on, and I think it really does go back. I think Disney has been testing the waters for quite a while now at just how much they can get away with. I think of Frozen and how, the prince didn't save her, but they saved themselves and they saved one another, and this, all of this messaging that was into it, and Frozen was huge, right? It was everywhere. Everybody loved Frozen, and I think that was such a reassurance to Disney of like, let's keep pressing, let's keep moving forward. You look at how they wove, homosexuality into Beauty and the Beast. And again, a couple little things here and there, and they were able to get away with it, and it kept moving forward. And so we've been seeing more and more of this woke agenda in media. And really, it was only this year after the election season that we've, really started to see people standing up and pushing back against this nonsense that I think most of us, again, just common sense individuals, are really sick and tired of getting this stuff crammed down our throats to the point of just choking on it all. And so I think that, in all of this, it really gets down to the point that Disney and the leftist culture in general doesn't understand what true femininity is. And they also don't understand what true masculinity is. And we're going to see that theme over and over and over again. But here, looking at Snow White, right? 1937, the original was made. It's what, made Disney, that big kickoff point to the giant, we know it as today. Now, 88 years later, there's this, huge difference that is done in this remake. And Disney has been doing these remakes because, of course, nobody has, new ideas anymore today. It's just redoing the stuff and making everything worse usually. But they decided to radically change what this movie is about. And we're not going to necessarily break down the movie. There are many videos out there of people who have done that. You guys can go and check them out. But the more and more looking at the points of this movie, I found three large points that I think this movie is really trying to press upon everyone. And, the actresses, behind all of this. I mean, they've only made the points worse, right? They've only added fuel to this fire where you're just, again, anybody with just common sense life thoughts is going, really? Why? Why did you have to do this? And the first one is, this girl's got daddy issues. Like, the moment I started looking at this stuff, from the opening scene and the reoccurring theme back to all of this with, my father told me that I was fearless, fair, brave, and true, and these things, it really just emphasized out to me how big of an issue having daddy issues is to our culture today. And I think especially, for those of us with children, this is really important because these are all the things that they're seeing. This is what everybody's talking about, right? This is what's going around on social media. These are probably the agendas that the public school system has been force feeding them for years now. This is a big deal. If you're just interacting with the culture around you in any way, shape, or form, whether you're going to the grocery store, right? Like, you're doing anything, you're going to be seeing this stuff. You're going to be coming in contact with it. And that's why I think it matters for every single one of us, whether or not you planned on seeing this movie or not. It goes back to her daddy issues. And you see this hurt, this loss of parents, first with her mom and then with her dad, but then after the mom goes, he gets remarried. You see this whole interaction with, it's no longer the prince that comes to save her anymore, but it's this like revolutionary, Robin Hood-esque, guy that pops in and pops out and whatever, that they meet and they do that. They take the whole prince thing away, which we'll get to here in a second. But I see a girl with daddy issues. And instead of this like sweetness that we saw in the original, the 1937 version of Snow White, yes, there was heartache, there was loss, there was true, trauma of life that she had gone through. But you didn't look at the 1937 Snow White and go, wow, you have major daddy issues. Where I feel like that's what I'm seeing in this 2025 version of Snow White. And I haven't heard anybody else say this yet. So you guys have to, again, comment below with, even if you've just seen the clips and the different things coming through, and we'll play some as we talk about here. But it looks like a girl who had severe daddy issues for whatever reason, right? He could have been the best dad in the whole wide world, and it was the loss of him that caused that. But I feel like the daddy issues are really screaming out. The way that she internalizes this to have to be this strong, independent woman, the way that, she moves forward in very questionable relationship choices, again with the very weird, they were trying to make sure that they did not have her rely on the prince, and right, even the actress, went very, very far to let everyone know that this isn't some love story. Prince Charming's not going to save her. He's creepy, he's a stalker.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Very, very intentional to talk very, very badly about this idea of a prince saving her. But then you look at the way that they did it, right? And I'm like, okay, if you don't want to have Prince Charming saving her and she has to be a girl boss and do all these things, like, okay, whatever. Hello, 2025. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. But the way they did it was just very odd. So instead she has these, weird exchanges with him. She finds him stealing in the palace, but yet like, I'm going to be a strong, independent woman, but yet I still want to be there and I'm going to save you. And, there's still this really, really weird dynamic. And so much of it, every time I'm just watching these different things, I'm like, daddy issues. This girl has major, major red flags, and it makes me sad for her. This now isn't, poor, sweet, innocent Snow White. It's, wow, like, I feel bad for you because you are really acting out in one way. And I think it's because you have major issues deep down. And then I think that just kind of hits the nail on the head to so much of society and the things that we're dealing with anyways, of most children today are carrying some form of parental issue. In most families, dad is not present. In most families, even if dad's around, he's demeaned. Like, even just from a cultural aspect, maybe that's not what's happening in your house, directly, and that would be amazing, sure, but that's kind of a common thread that we just see. Parental issues, a broken family unit, that is the norm of today. And so I think even if they didn't mean to do this in the movie, they're really just playing into these massive parental issues in a way that becomes very just toxic. And is that really what we wanted to do, again, in a movie that's supposedly made for children? I don't know. Now, the second one we have to get to, of course, I think is the most common, thing that we all would expect from a Disney movie, especially a Disney princess movie. You look at how with the remake of Aladdin, Jasmine, of course, couldn't just be this, sweet princess who falls in love. She had to be a girl boss. She had to be independent. She had to be, preparing for the throne and really just so strong. And, they put in that weird song that they did for, for Jasmine that didn't fit anything else to do within the movie, but, to kind of get that agenda across. So, of course, we were expecting that to a degree, but the feminist agenda in this movie is fascinating. And this is why I say that Disney doesn't understand, and really just the whole leftist agenda in our culture today as a whole, doesn't understand what true femininity is. And they also don't understand what true masculinity is. So we go back to the 1937 version, and we see Snow White, who, first of all, is white. She has very, very fair skin, right? The whole point of this, which they change in this movie. Okay, whatever. I'm not even going to pick that as one of my battles. That's what a liberty you wanted to take. Sure, go for it, whatever. But we see someone who was feminine, who was delicate, who was all the things that traditional femininity holds to be, okay? You look at how she went in and cared for the dwarves. Not what happens in this movie, right? You look at how she spoke and just the gentleness that was who she was. Not what it is in this movie, right? You look at all these different points. And even with such traditional femininity in the original, there was such a strength about what she accomplished. She wasn't this helpless nothing person. It was who she was in that true, gentle and quiet spirit that spoke so loudly throughout the movie without her having to boisterously screech at everyone and run around, fighting off all the bad guys. And so I think that was so interesting to see just how disregarded men are in our culture today. And so whoever you are, whether you have children, your children are grown, whatever season of life you might be in, when we continue to support media that treats one portion of society so just monstrously different than the other, right? We can go back and look at times with segregation, with class systems, right? We can look at this in so many different ways and realize that this is a problem, that this is an issue. Why can we not see that today when looking at the difference of how men and women are treated? How can we not look at that and see that this is obviously still a major, major issue? And I know that Snow White isn't the only movie out there doing this, okay? Obviously it's not. But we have now taken someone who embraced her femininity, embraced who she was designed to be, and through that shone so bright and so strong. And now we've turned this whole thing into it's no longer that. Of course, anything to do with being feminine is wrong. Of course, she's not going to clean up the house for the dwarves. No, she's going to break and enter into their house, like conquer it as her own, and then tell them that they need to get it together and stop being slobs. Like, what is wrong with you? The way that they go about these things so often is just absolutely ridiculous. And again, regardless of your season of life, in order to be a woman, you need to be equal with men. You are the strong one. Feminists don't want equality. They want superiority. And so when we continue to further these agendas and put these things out that women, you are only worthy when you are on top, when you are the strong one, when you are in control. That's what we're telling girls. And so heaven forbid you fall in love. You find a husband who loves and honors and cherishes you. You allow him to be who God designed him to be. And instead you constantly want to take his place. Like, why can't I be content in that? Why can't I find beauty in the order of life? And so we look at all the ways that and again, we could sit here for hours going through the ways that they're pushing their feminist agenda upon everyone with this movie. Why do we have to downgrade men? If you are a man, right? Like, how sick are you of being the laughing stock, being the joke, being, the one that just, you with your thing, okay, like, you don't know what I know. Those of us who have sons, is this the world we want to send our sons off into? And for the women, you're telling me that my only value, my only worth is if I'm out there conquering everything the men are trying to do. Why can't my worth be in who I am? Why the feminist agenda? Why the hate towards traditional family values? The downgrade of just marriage in order and true love. No, we want to be promiscuous. We want to do whatever we want to do, and no man better tell me that something's wrong. I don't think so. It's my way or the highway, right? Of course, that is alive and well throughout this whole movie. Now, the last point here that I think is so interesting. We've seen this, people have talked about this in, coming out of our school systems, anything to do with, college, universities, even just the younger generations today and what they think they want, what they think is right and fair. And this one, I think, was the biggest one that as a Christian really, really stood out to me. This utopian world that is painted to be the world that Snow White is going to be able to get everything back to. It's what her parents had, and it's what she's going to get them back to. This world is painted, and it's what the ideals of communism are. And I get it. When you look at communism in that idealistic way of everybody shares, everything's fair, everything just works out great, there are no issues. Sure, of course, right? Who wouldn't want the world to be fair in that way? I mean, my kids say that all the time. Well, that's not fair. And I'm like, I'm sorry, when did we ever tell you that life is fair? Like, life isn't fair, okay? It just isn't. That's not how life works. I don't know where we believe that to come from. Like, there's nothing really in the worldly system that goes, oh, hey, you're promised fairness. Okay, well, that's not how that works. And there's a reason why communism is kind of promoted in one way and has an ideal in one way, but in practicality, it never ever works that way. And this is where the truth of God's word comes in. Because I think all of us, deep down, we want a world that's fair. I want life to be fair. I want to work hard and receive much, right? Like I want to be able to get what everyone else can get, right? How come these guys can go and play football and be multimillionaires, but this guy over here who's literally working his hands to the bone can barely keep food on the table for his family? So this guy can catch a ball, he's a multimillionaire. This guy is literally blood, sweat, and tears working each and every day, can barely keep food on the table. Like, that's not fair. That's ridiculous, right? Like, I get it. There are frustrating things and things in life where it's like, man, why can't I get ahead? Why can't life be fair? All of these things, these ideals of communism and, right, like Snow White, she's going to come in and she's going to restore everything. The evil queen, she has disrupted this whole balance, and Snow White needs to be the true leader her father said she would be and restore all of this. All of this is just a human attempt to create God's kingdom. And I get that here living in the sin-stained world, you're right. It would be nice if things are fair. We all feel that some days, right? When you just can't get ahead, you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're watching, the stuff play out on the news or whatever. And you're like, seriously, like, this is ridiculous. Like, we can send billions of dollars to random countries for, transgender operations, but yet our own, vets are homeless on the streets. Like, that's insanity to me, right? There's so many things that are so incredibly unfair. Sure, it would be great if things weren't so off balance. I don't disagree. But we see this communist ideal, of a land, of a kingdom here in the movie, really promoting that of being the answer, what we need. What do you think that does to the younger people watching these movies? What do you think that does to the kids watching this and going, yeah, you're right. Like, imagine if we could just get some sort of government system that way, that things could be fair. And I think that that's one of the things that really just made me go, you know what, I think we're going to talk about this in a video, because I know that sounds great. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could be in charge, everything could be the way I want it to be, I didn't need to rely on anyone else, I could be incredibly selfish just like the Snow White, and everything in the kingdom would just work perfectly. No one would be put out. Everything would be wonderful. Wouldn't that be great? Well, obviously, in our own selfish wants and needs, of course that would be great. The ideal that everybody would be the same, equality would reign, everybody would have exactly what they needed, no one would do without. Do we not all understand that regardless of what you might think it is, all of us have this longing deep down inside of us for truth? There's one God, Creator. He created each and every one of us, regardless of what you might believe. He is the Creator. And He promises an eternal kingdom that is the fulfillment of all the things that you and I are longing for. True equality, but not equality in the way of, again, feminists don't actually want equality. They want to take over everything. They want superiority. True equality, where we are all one through Christ Jesus, where everyone truly does have their needs more than met. There is no sickness, there is no harm, there is no sin. Our sin-stained bodies, all of creation cries out wanting that. So yes, I get that that is something we want. I get that that is why people have tried and tried and tried again to pass off the ideals of communism. Because that ideal utopian world where everybody shares and everybody gets along, you're right, it sounds great. But it sounds great because even if I don't realize it, am longing for the kingdom that God has promised to those who trust in His Son. And so when we look at these things, we look at this world that's being promoted. Why Disney feels the need, and it's not just Disney, of course, there are many, many other, worldly media outlets doing this, but we're just focusing on Disney here today. Why they feel the need to continue to promote these just leftist ideals, it's ridiculous. And anyone with any ounce of common sense goes, sure, yes, I cannot wait for the eternal. There's one God. You get to Him through faith in Christ alone. It is by grace that we are all saved, which is a free gift that none of us might boast. I cannot wait for the day that I am in the eternal state. To be promised life after this world, there's nothing like it. It's what drives everything that I do each and every day in my life. I cannot wait for that time. But I can't make that time exist here. No governmental system is going to bring this utopian world, right? God brings His kingdom that is that proper place of peace that only comes through Messiah Jesus. That's it. And so sure, there are things that we can do. Yes, like as Christians, we are called to be the church. Like how we act, how we interact with every person around us obviously has a massive, massive impact. Absolutely. But you're not going to just you're not going to like legislate these things in. We're not going to just vote in the right person. and therefore everything's going to be fixed and perfect. And like that's not how it works. And we can go all throughout history and see human attempts of this, and it fails time and time again. And so I think that, again, this daddy issue she has inside of her of, this is what my dad told me I would be, right? I will be fearless. I will be fair. I will be brave. I will be true. Like, sure, those are great virtues. But now she's got this like massive daddy issue deep inside of her that like she just can't get over, which causes this really weird, like toxic relationship, like, because they're trying so hard to make sure that she's not depending on no man, because of course the feminist agenda is alive and well in every movie they're putting out. And then you drop all of this chaos into this like communist drama that's being played out, and you just look at it and go, what on earth is going on? Disney was doing this, right? This has been years in production. They started realizing how their woke movies are just flopping one right after the other. So they start kind of backpedaling in this. Of course, their lead actress is out there just spouting all kinds of nonsense. And here they are. And then to top it all off, she goes, Rachel Zegler goes on. And again, these actors live in their own bubble, their own world. They really are so out of touch with reality. I mean, from every aspect of their lives, they're kind of off in their own little whatever. They don't represent real people, but they spew agendas that affect real people. Our children are affected by this. Our culture is affected by this. Our families are affected by this. So yes, it does matter. And now you have her going out and talking about how this backlash about the movie, because again, you've probably seen multiple videos about this. There's so many people talking about this because of how bad it was. She's saying that this is just everyone hating her when she wins.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Because now this is all about this, again, I don't know how from the fictional world of Snow White to the real world of this actress, like they've somehow converged and are kind of the same, but how Snow White has taken everything to be about her. And yes, the movie's about her, it's Snow White, but instead of it being like how it was originally, how the story actually goes, it's all about how she is so persecuted and how she is the one who needs to come in, and only they can only be saved by her and her alone, because she is that girl boss who is just there to conquer because daddy told her that she would one day. And so everybody is stopping her from being who she truly is, the rightful ruler of all and savior to the, world. Now, this actress is almost doing the same thing where she's like, I just did all of this. It's the best movie to ever come out. And now everybody's just being so mean to me and coming up against me. You're this person who is believing this just unhinged, woke, worldly narrative. And I think people are just really getting sick of it. Moms are getting sick of seeing their sons sent out into a world that thinks they're garbage. I'm sick of seeing my daughters being told that their only worth is when they can be strong, independent girl bosses, because anything less than that means you're nothing. What? How does that even make sense? I might be struggling with my own issues at home. I might have my own daddy issue, right? Like I might have my own things I'm dealing with. And now we're just taking that and saying, it's okay with those. Look how strong and empowered you can become when you just let that continue to build up in you and get so toxic that it festers and boils out into every area of your life. I just don't get it. I don't get why Disney thought this was a great idea. I don't get why our culture continues to believe these lies that this is what life is. That ideal of her just being this feminine little, worthless, walked all over woman is what we should be okay with, right? It's not 1937 anymore. No, it's 2025, and look at women today. You think this is doing great things for the advancement of women? Because, I'm not going to clean up after them. They're going to learn to clean up for themselves. I don't need no man. This is not about true love. Why is that a good thing? Why is that a good thing that this is what we're promoting? Can somebody please explain to me why that's a good thing? And so the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm going, wow. It's not just Disney that doesn't understand what true femininity is or true masculinity. It's our culture. And it's what we're telling our children, because there's a balance here. No, true femininity isn't being this like worthless princess that can't do anything for yourself. But it's also not having to go and conquer the men because they're actually worthless and you're the one who's better. And so I'm glad this movie is a flop, because what this shows me, and for you watching right here, like this video if you believe you have an ounce of common sense, because if you're here and we're having this conversation, I believe you do. Because for any of us that have even an ounce of common sense, we're watching this and going, what? Why is this what we're doing? Of all the creative minds that we have in the world today, this is what we're churning out. We're taking a classic, and instead of expanding on it, right? If you want to remake it, okay. If you want to adjust or go back to, this line of the story or that, okay, that's fine. Like creative liberties, I get it. But no, we're doing this. We're changing everything. We're demeaning all the men. We're creating a communist utopia. And that's what we want everybody to see here in this grand remake of, the very thing that was the beloved film that kicked off this whole, Disney enterprise of almost 100 years. I think it's just absolute insanity. And again, they're not the only ones doing this. We can go, round and round with movies on this. But I think as Christians especially, but honestly, just someone with common sense, we have to look at this and go, there are so many red flags here. I don't want to promote this to my children. I don't want to promote it to anyone. Why is this what we keep focusing on? Why is this the nonsense that we keep believing, not only watching it as entertainment, but believing it in our own lives? That just makes no sense to me. Because there are real struggles and hardships that we face. And there are real ways that we deal with them, that we conquer them, and we move through them. And it's not about going and being who the world's agenda is telling you need to be. No. It's knowing that God created you, as who you're supposed to be. And trusting in Him through that is what gets you through it. And there's nothing wrong with traditional values. There's nothing wrong with understanding that men and women were created very specifically to be men and women. They each have absolute value. They each have so much to offer to the world. And there's a difference for a reason. And so hopefully this can start the conversation in your home. Maybe it's with your children. Maybe you've gone and watched this movie, right? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave me a comment down below. I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have. Because while I would much rather focus on like the fun, enjoyable things in life, there's the real aspect that, come on, somebody needs to sit down and have this conversation and say, really? Really? Like people have lost their marbles. And I would love it so much to see even a little bit of common sense make it into the media world. I feel like we're starting to see some of it in governmental areas. We're starting to see some of it in just kind of like real life situations. Like seeing some of this common sense stuff coming back lately has been a breath of fresh air. Like I will say I am enjoying it. If we could see it make its way into media, just a smidgen, that would be amazing. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know, what did you think about Snow White, right? Are you planning to see it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Share this with someone who would probably benefit from this conversation as well, because I think the more that we talk about these things, the more that we bring a common sense to what it is that we are entertaining ourselves with, the more we can start to see real change in what we have here in this life. Genuinely, I do love having a space where we can have conversations like this. And so if you would like to see more, be sure when you subscribe, turn on your little bell notifications for just real life conversation that I think many of us would like to have in our day to day. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and leave you guys this video right up here that I think you might appreciate. I'll see you all right back here in the next one. Bye, friends.